Frenkie de Jong. Nobody can argue against his talent, that's for sure, and as the season has progressed, we've seen his importance to Hansi Flick's tactics and his overall importance to the team grow to a point that we haven't seen in some time at Barcelona. There are other names that are always going to get the headlines ahead of him when speaking about Barcelona's return to form this season. LaLiga, Copa del Rey, Supercopa, and of course, minutes away, agonizingly close to a Champions League final as well. As the season has progressed, De Jong has stood out in the midfield in a slightly changed role and putting up passing percentages that Toni Kroos would be proud of. I mean, if a German former Real Madrid player could ever be proud of a Dutch Barcelona player. Rivalries on both fronts there, but I mean, you catch my meaning, right? But back in November, De Jong was booed by his own supporters as he entered the pitch as a substitute, not once, but twice. With Frenkie, there's a lot of baggage, which is probably why he's the most important of the least talked about cogs in Flick's first season triumphs. But that baggage, of course, goes beyond this past season, well beyond.
Because of that, people are even more critical of him, and especially Spanish fans in Barcelona see how much he has made and, don't pay attention to the fact that a lot of it was deferred wages.
This, of course, is Robby Lou, friend of the channel and one of the best creators covering Barcelona in English. Not just recaps, but great stories or video essays as well. Definitely check him out if you haven't already.
And so there's a lot of weight on his shoulders, and he was not playing well. He wasn't playing well. And yes, he was recovering from injury and everything. And he was trying to slot into a team that was moving pretty well for a little while because of all that weight on him that has been around for a really long time. Fans are really quick with him. He's on a tight leash. And when it's not performing and everyone else is looking good, Casado was looking ridiculous for a little while and did really great things for the team this season. When this guy, your third captain, and someone who is making so much, has had such a weird history with the club, is now not playing well, it was really easy for fans to kind of lose it with him.
That strained history with the club has been well documented. Honestly, all you had to do was pay attention during the transfer windows in the last few years and you'd see that, Barca's trying to sell De Jong again, and again, he's not wanting to leave. Given the high wages Frenkie is on, a gift from the Bartomeu era, and given the financial difficulties at Barcelona over the past few years, another gift from the Bartomeu era, De Jong has constantly been targeted as someone who Barca needed to get rid of in order for them to improve their financial health, especially their salary mass. He was seen as a burden, and his preference and desire to stay at Barcelona to continue his dream of playing at the iconic club was seen, perhaps cynically, as a desire to continue benefiting from the massive contract he had signed previously. De Jong is a top earner if you look at his annual salary, but part of that is thanks to deferred wages from that incredibly unstable COVID era. And so it's a bit of a weird situation where, as Robby mentioned, Barcelona supporters in Spain especially have at times seen him as somewhat of a leech. And when you consider the injuries that he has had, that damn ankle keeps on failing him, De Jong has been fighting an uphill battle when it comes to his reputation amongst some Barcelona supporters, and I think it's safe to say at this point that he has began winning them over, which wasn't necessarily thought to be possible when he was getting booed as he entered the pitch against both Stade Brestois and Barca's match against Las Palmas. So what's turned the tide here? A bit of a change of role in some respects.
Trying to put in tackles, I think a little bit of that is when they originally started him this season and tried to warm him into the play when everybody was upset with him, he was playing as a number 10. Because of his ankle injury, he didn't want to put in tackles. That's what we've heard from Flick saying that. So they wanted to play him in an area where he wasn't going to have to put in those tackles. He's not a number 10. He looked terrible. That's part of the reason as well. Since then, he's warmed up a little bit. He's gotten more confidence in his ankle and he is putting in tackles, but he's playing deeper. And we're seeing that competence on the ball, that intelligence that obviously he's had since he was young at Ajax. He's clearly still not 100%, but I still think he is playing incredibly well, all things considered, and is looking much more like that player from Ajax that we wanted, on top of a little bit more defensive responsibility as well. You see him a lot dropping between the center backs and being one of the deepest players, especially in games in the past couple matches where I think the high line's been a little bit more uneasy. Frenkie has that a little bit. He can calm the ball down. You think maybe if they get him the ball at the end of the Inter Milan game, maybe that goes differently. Maybe it doesn't. Who knows? But The point is, I think he's looking more like what we expected him to be when he first signed from Ajax. And a lot of that has to do with the way Hansi warmed him up into everything.
That mention of how the Champions League could have gone differently if perhaps Frenkie was on the ball does definitely bring up a great point. Not just in a, wow, what could have been for Barcelona kind of way, but more in the different kind of importance that he carries for what he can do with his ability and what he brings as far as a bit of restraint in the squad. Because when you mix Hansi's tactics with the high line, high energy, getting the ball forward, always looking to score approach, and you mix that with the youthful squad that Flick has and has been forced to utilize in some ways, it's a double-edged sword, right? Clearly it can be devastating going forward, but clearly it can be devastating when it comes to goals that you concede as well. There was no world where Barcelona should have lost the match once they were 3-2 ahead in the 87th minute against Inter Milan. This was when you retain. Don't leave yourself at your opponent's mercy when you lose the ball in your own half with more players forward than back to protect your lead. De Jong's integral in this way, and his leadership, his guidance for these younger players that are coming through will be very important for Barcelona in the seasons to come if he signs a longer contract. If he can impart some of this on his teammates, if he can help to regulate when you punch the gas versus when you, well, basically take on evasive maneuvers, this Barcelona team will be all the better for it. They'll be scary. And that's the thing with De Jong recently. It took him a bit to reintegrate, and his minutes have been very much regulated, especially in LaLiga, but the reason for that has been that Flick wants him to be available for the biggest matches of the season. Look to the Copa del Rey. He played every single minute up until the 85th minute of the final. Look at the Champions League. He started every single knockout round match, and after Benfica in the round of 16, he played every single minute. When you look at Barcelona this season, there are obvious standouts, partially due to the nature of Hansi Flick's attack-first approach to football. You know, there's Lewandowski, the 36-year-old who is having a renaissance in his career, scoring over 40 goals and playing at the apex of football. Rafinha, the journey he's had at Barcelona, unwanted by some in the summer, going on to have a Ballon d'Or contending season with Barcelona, as well as becoming one of their most important leaders. Lamine Yamal, who, as the season has gone on, has somehow gotten better and better to the point where it's scary, like I said back in November with this video. He has that I can win matches on my own essence to him, once in a generation. And I mean, what he's doing at 17 hasn't been seen since the original Ronaldo. But to do it for your country and a team like Barcelona that plays in a top league and the Champions League, there's levels to it. This is otherworldly stuff. There's Pedri, a guy who has often been seen as a top midfielder in recent seasons, but who has been catapulted to perhaps the best midfielder in the world under Hansi Flick. Kubarsi, who turned 18 a few months ago, but mostly plays as if he's a veteran in that Barcelona backline, unfazed whenever he's facing Europe's best attackers, calm and cool with it, beyond his years. What about even the story surrounding Szczesny's return to football? A guy who is retired, taking full advantage of his retirement, who still smokes cigarettes to this day, but has put in some unbelievable performances for Barcelona at times this season after their number one was out with a huge injury. There are so many other stories at Barcelona that get much more attention. And hey, maybe that's warranted, right? But De Jong's importance in Barcelona's success and near successes when it comes to the Champions League, it shouldn't be ignored.
I think if Frenkie wasn't here this season, they might not make it past Dortmund. They probably struggle a lot more in the league and maybe don't even win the Copa del Rey against Madrid. Casado went out, and Casado wasn't a perfect defensive midfielder or active midfielder, but Frenkie adds a lot of intelligence on the ball, and I think that alone has created this solidity in a team that's all over the place, man. It's like, we're going down 2 every match and they're coming back. It's such wild football to have 2 guys in the midfield that you can rely on, you can just throw the ball to and just let them rotate it around, let them figure it out, calm down, hold possession, rotate it around the box. Having 2 guys that can remember those days with Messi and everything and just rotate the ball around, find spaces, don't force anything. I think that's a lot of what Rafinha, you see Lamine do that. Ferran Torres maybe a little bit, but they force a lot. Firmino can do it as well. They're forcing a lot of things that they don't need to force. You could go back to the Inter Milan game as a fine example of that. It's important to counter that, and that's something Frenkie can do wonderfully.
So it's been great to see De Jong not only play better of late and become an important cog in the Barcelona machine, but it seems as though he hasn't just won over the fans or Flick, but people in the executive positions as well, the people or their predecessors who wanted to sell De Jong before. No doubt you will still see headlines about teams being interested in De Jong this summer, given his contract is up in 1 year. You'll still see some transfer slop articles linking him away from the club, and who knows, he very well could leave. But as he has maintained throughout his time at Barcelona, he still wants to stay with the club. He's still happy in Barcelona. And so we're hearing more and more murmurs and even hints from decision makers that assuming an agreement can be reached regarding his salary, De Jong's Barcelona journey could continue beyond next season.
We saw Deco come out with it a couple days ago saying that this team has just developed very well and they don't want to lose any of the pieces they have. I think that was about talking about Araujo. And so they definitely don't want to lose Frenkie. He's so much more important to the squad than Araujo is right now. I think, again, that appreciation for him isn't universal. And so some would definitely be willing to let him go. And I understand it too. He's 28 now. He just turned 28 a few days ago. And so I see the argument. Right now, he's building to an incredibly healthy spot. And so it would be very unfortunate to lose him now, but it all depends on the money.
So we'll see. If he is to be available, you know a ton of teams would be interested in signing Frenkie de Jong, which speaks even more to his quality. But hey, that's it for this video, guys. I appreciate you taking the time to watch, and a big thank you to Robby for joining me once again. Make sure you check out his channel if you aren't familiar with him already, which you probably are. Great Barcelona content. Well, both of his channels, actually. He also does match reactions on his second channel, and both are linked below. All right, that's it from me. Thank you for joining me, and be well.